Origins.
What would it actually take to start World War III? Most wars don't begin all at once.
They usually begin with small conflicts. Then those conflicts begin to spread. Today, one of the most dangerous conflicts is between the United States and Iran. It has already escalated beyond tension.
One location is especially important: the Strait of Hormuz. A large percentage of the world's oil passes through this route. Any disruption could affect global economies. When tensions rise here, the impact spreads quickly. Other countries begin to respond. Modern conflicts often involve alliances. One country's conflict can draw in many others. History shows that global wars often begin this way, through gradual escalation.
Sometimes, a single misunderstanding can trigger escalation. Decisions are made quickly.
One action leads to another. Each side responds to the other. These decisions are often made by a small number of leaders. Their choices can affect millions. Strikes are often aimed at strategic locations, military bases, infrastructure, and supply routes. As the conflict grows, other nations begin to respond. Alliances start to activate.
The response often comes quickly. Each side shows it will not back down.
The conflict begins to spread across the region. Nearby countries are forced to respond. Attention quickly turns to a critical location: the Strait of Hormuz.
A large portion of global oil passes through this route. Any disruption affects the entire world. If shipping is disrupted, supply chains begin to fail. Energy prices rise quickly. Markets react almost immediately. The effects spread far beyond the region.
Allied nations begin to take positions. Military cooperation increases.
Naval forces are deployed to key locations. Control of the sea becomes critical.
Airspace becomes increasingly contested. Military aircraft operate under constant risk. Not all conflict happens on the battlefield. Cyber attacks can target critical systems. Information becomes another battlefield. Narratives begin to shape public perception.
At a certain point, de-escalation becomes difficult. Each move increases the risk.
The conflict has already spread beyond two countries. Strikes are now happening across the Gulf.
When energy supply is hit, the world reacts immediately. Prices begin to surge.
So what would actually happen if this conflict kept escalating? Would it become World War III? In the first hours, the conflict would remain regional. Strikes would focus on military targets.
The first global impact would come from oil. Supply routes could be disrupted within hours.
Energy prices would rise quickly. Markets would react almost immediately.
Countries would begin to respond. Alliances would start to activate. The conflict would expand beyond initial targets. More locations would be affected. Cyber attacks could disrupt critical systems. Power grids and communications may be affected.
Airspace could be restricted across entire regions. Global travel would slow down. At this stage, the entire world would feel the impact, even countries far from the conflict. In the worst-case scenario, more major powers become involved. This is when the conflict becomes global.
We need to
At this point, decisions become critical. De-escalation becomes much harder.
Only at extreme escalation does nuclear risk appear, and by then, control is limited. Major cities would begin to feel the impact. Daily life would be disrupted. People would react to uncertainty. Fear would spread quickly. Supply chains would be affected. Basic goods could become harder to find. Economic pressure would increase. Costs of living would rise.
Modern war would affect more than battlefields. It would affect everyday life.
The scale would be far greater than previous wars. Its impact would be worldwide.
The outcome would be uncertain and difficult to predict.
History shows that global wars begin with escalation, not a single moment.
And today, many of those conditions already exist, right now.
But escalation does not always lead to global war. Outcomes can still change.
The outcome depends on decisions made in critical moments. Timing matters.
The situation continues to evolve, and history is still being written. So how close is the world to a larger conflict? There is no simple answer.
What happens next will depend on what comes next and how far escalation is allowed to go.